Good evening, everyone. Tonight, this is the April 25th, 2023 work session agenda. The time is 6:03 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Because this is a work session agenda, there's no public comment this evening, so we'll go right to the board presentations. The first board presentation is the grant policy and procedures. That is by Charlene Cagle-Betts, our village administrator and treasurer. So Charlene, feel free to take it away, and thank you.
Thank you. Well, recently, the finance department has taken over the financial administration of the grants. It became a bit of a heavy lift for our outside grant writer, and it's actually better for us to have a centralized administration so we can keep track of all the grants, make sure that the reimbursements are being submitted, and we have access to all the records, so it's a lot easier. But it seems that there is, there's a lot of different grants out there. It took us a bit of time to try to get a centralized log together. The grant will be, for example, we'll apply for a grant, and it'll be for $180,000, and the village has a 50% match. We sign the contracts, and then we find out that the engineering's not included, so there's an additional cost, and then we'll find out that the project went over. And that's what happened with our CDBG grant that we had for the Jobs Lane Main Street traffic light, the historic traffic light that they're installing there. That project went over by a bit. So what we had, Julie and I have had a couple of pretty constructive conversations with Jen Mezziano, and we've been having bi-weekly check-ins and going over this. So we had a similar procedure, which I had written shortly after I came on board in East Hampton, because we kind of had the same problem going on there. And what I was going to address to the board tonight for consideration, adopting in the future, I drafted a procedure policy, and I'll hand it out, and a grant intake form, which we found was very helpful in tracking for purposes. And what this would do is have a centralized, whoever brings the grant to the village, in this procedure, it would start with the application, and it would say, gives the village administrator and treasurer's office has to maintain the database, the central database. The mayor's the signatory on the grant and the reimbursement requests. Jen had made a suggestion that perhaps we make it and/or designate. And then, as the fiscal contact, we would go through the process. So if somebody were to identify a grant or a funding opportunity, bring it in, and we would take a look at any projects that might fit, discuss it at a work session with the board, identify whatever the source of match funding would be, if there is a match, and then we'd be able to apply for the grant, have Jen do that, fill out the application, work with the department head or the project lead who would be spearheading that project, whether it be DPW or an outside engineer, if it were water quality. And then we would be able to we're actually created a set of accounts in our financial software that works very similar to the capital accounts, where it has a balanced budget. It has the revenue, it has the match, and it has the expenses, so we can track it there, and it makes it easy for reporting. So there's a lot of funding opportunities around, and we're just trying to get a little bit of a handle on it moving forward. So this is really for discussion and for the board to take the policy, take a look at it, and we can provide any edits or updates that you think, or something that's lacking in the procedure. But basically just going through the process of having a discussion, the funding source, and then we know what we've committed to. And moving forward, we'll have a pretty concise, accurate database that we can work off of. So
So at this time, do we know what grants that we have gotten, and do we know what the matches are for these grants, or this is,
It's very, it's very complicated because a lot of the grants that we get from the town, the CPF grants, they're used as an additional funding source for another project, and they can actually be used as a match. And some of the federal funds that we've been receiving allow us to use the CPF funds as the village match. So at this point in time, we're at almost about $1.4 million in matches that the board has approved through resolutions. That it also includes the Rogers Mansion, the upgrade that we did there, the water quality grants, and Old Town Pond dredging. We've got the downtown, the street light that I just spoke about at the intersection of Jobs and Main. And at this point in time, that's about 1.4 million in village match. The total grant funds is about 8.3 million. So the match is a small percentage of that. We just have to make sure that we are tracking what the village committed to in matches with the grants. So I just figured I would distribute the policy. I was going to email it to everyone as well. I think I did. And if you have any edits, let me know, and then we could work on drafting a policy for the board to adopt at a future meeting.
Thank you.
At what point in time would you consider, or would the board consider, or who would consider the potential impact of what might be called future guarantees for grants that we have submitted, obviously have not been awarded yet, but if you submit the grant and you get it, you have to come up with the match, and how do we keep track of that potential obligation?
Well, this process kind of takes care of that. We would know what we're committed to in the beginning before we apply for the grant. As Jen had mentioned to me, anytime before we sign the contract, and even anytime before we start the project or start spending funds, we could decline the grant, and always, if we don't have the funding source. So we could go out and apply for grants and then say in a perfect world, we get funded for everything, and then we don't have enough match. The board would have to make a decision if we wanted to, appropriate some reserve money for it, or rather than just take money out of trustee special projects, which we've been funding a lot of our grants with as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlene. This is excellent. I think this is a great practice to implement, so I wanted to thank you and your team for getting this in order. And I certainly think this is a great idea. This comes in light of a record year that we had in 2022 as far as earning grants for the village. That includes about a $500,000 grant for the History Museum, which really was a highly competitive grant. It includes over $10 to $12 million of clean water grants that we received from the Town Water Quality Fund, Suffolk County, the New York State DEC, and the federal government. Charlene, you mentioned the CDBG grant that we received as well. I believe you and Kathy had helped us get a grant to digitize our records, which is also outstanding. So we had an outstanding year in receiving grants. So this is certainly a best practice to put in place. So I wanted to thank you again for doing that. And then I also wanted to point out that 2 years ago or so, we set up with an operating budget surplus, we set up a $3.7 million clean water infrastructure fund. Part of that fund could go towards matching grants. In addition to the trustee special project line item, there's still $3.6 million left in that water quality and infrastructure fund. It could also go for a down payment on the sewer, but there's some funding available there. But it certainly it would still be a problem, but could be a good problem to have if we've received so much grants and so much grant money that we're then looking at how to match it. But again, we've successfully found grants to match. So for example, if we've got a town grant, oftentimes there's a county grant to match our commitment to fund that grant, or vice versa. So I think the village has done a great job on that, and this is an excellent policy to put into place. So thank you again. Next up this evening is a public hearing, and I'll make a motion to open public hearing. Andrew, there's two X's here. It says local law XX 2023. Do you know the number here?
I believe it's 12.
Okay.
But this is the public hearing that was adjourned at the last meeting on the waterfront law. and it remains before you.
That's right. So I'll make a motion to open this public hearing, the proposal to amend Chapter 116 zoning, specifically Sections 116-9A, 3, 116-9A, 10A, and 116-9A, 11A. Is there a second to open the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this for a further study at a later date.
Just quick discussion. Is there anyone here that wanted to make a public comment on this? Because I think it's a good idea to
Yeah.
adjourn, but if someone did come and take the time,
Yeah, of course.
maybe we can just table that for a second if that's okay.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to table that motion to adjourn.
Yeah,
Is there a second?
Well, there was only a motion, so if there's no second, I guess
Okay.
continue, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Please come on up.
Sure. Bailey Larkin with Bennett and Reed, offices at 212 Windmill Lane in Southampton. I just wanted to reiterate our prior objection to the enactment of this law,
Right.
specifically as it relates to oceanfront properties in the village. It would affect several of our clients right now, projects that are in process, under construction, actually. So,
Right.
that's it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bailey.
I actually, I spoke to John Bennett today and told him that I would be tabling this for further study, so thank you very much.
All right, thank you. If you'd like to make the motion to adjourn, feel free.
Continue with the motion to adjourn for further study at a later date.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, excellent. We have 3 communications to the board. One is a correspondence from the Golden Pair. The second is a correspondence from Susan Horton, Eric Raymond, and the third is a correspondence from Merrill Lieberman. I'll just quickly summarize them. The correspondence from the Golden Pair is addressed to the board. It's from President Keith Davis, and he says in summary that this letter serves to advise you all that I am not pleased with the removal of the garbage cans in Southampton Village. This is a profound mistake that will only result in more trash ending up on sidewalks, in and near flower plantings, and throughout the village proper. This decision was made without performing in-depth, careful, all-inclusive research and planning. It is my understanding that not one single merchant nor village resident was contacted for feedback and input regarding this issue and decision. It is my understanding from speaking with persons that remain anonymous that this decision was made to attempt to reduce overtime wages for Village Parks employees. This is a huge mistake. My request is that this decision be reversed and garbage cans returned for the following reasons. There's 4 reasons that are listed. This correspondence is available to the public. It's a public communication, and I believe it appears in our agenda packet on the village website. And then the additional correspondences from Susan Horton, Eric Raymond, and Merrill Lieberman, in summary, go to address the no right turn from 3 to 7 p.m. onto Hill Street. And I believe that they're asking the board to amend our code so that it does not include weekends. Specifically, Susan Horton says that she lives on Corrigan Street and agree this is a good rule and understand the reason behind it, but she says there is no basis for it to include weekends. Especially as residents, we see no reason for forbidding the right turn when there is no significant traffic driving west on Hill Street Saturday and Sunday. Please take this into consideration. Thank you very much. Susan, Eric Raymond, 50 Corrigan Street. Merrill's correspondent is similar to that, so that is the summary. There's 2 discussion items. There's one regarding a Surf Rider Foundation event, which would be great to have. Charlene, did you want to just give us the background on the Surf Rider event?
I think they do a cleanup on the beach, and they've done it for the last few years. And they have a cleanup day, and I think that there's a resolution on for the agenda approving their event.
Excellent, thank you. And then the second discussion item, I'll make this brief because we have a resolution later on in the agenda tonight. But this is regarding the elected officials' lifetime benefits. And this was a suggestion that I believe was made by the task force that presented last month. And as many village residents may know or may not know, elected officials such as myself and the Board of Trustees, after hitting a 5-year mark at a certain age, get village-funded benefits for the rest of our lives. And this is actually something I was hoping to have gotten done earlier, but I'm happy to do this tonight. I've asked for a resolution to be placed on the agenda, and this would start with this group. This would essentially eliminate the benefits for life for elected officials. I would argue that we are public servants and our job is to volunteer our time. And while we're here, it's okay, but when we retire from our jobs, taking benefits from the village really doesn't make much sense. I believe the village of West Hampton did something similar and was applauded for it. So I'm asking the board tonight to essentially remove that. As far as it goes with people that have already received this, I believe the task force recommended that they are grandfathered in. This is something that they expected and are now used to, and taking this away from people that have already earned it would not be a good idea, but for us to set the example moving forward would be. This could save potentially the village taxpayers significant funding, with the cost of family plan being upwards of $40,000 per family over the course of a extended period of time. Even at any discount rate, these could result in substantial costs for the village. And again, we are public servants and we are essentially volunteers, so this is something that would be a good practice to do, and we could set a good example moving forward. I'm not sure if there's any comments or questions from the board, but it's a discussion item, so feel free to discuss.
Sure. I think this requires further analysis. I don't remember I believe it was Walter Dean, only spoke about the terms. I don't think they touched upon that. And also, the Planning Commission is still working on this as a package to consider compensation, benefits, and term limits. And the Budget and Finance Committee is also working on the same thing as far as budget is concerned. So I'd like to wait for their presentations, and this should be done. I don't know why you would, you put this on without discussing it with anyone, and I don't recall that being presented either. And without further analysis, I think this should be tabled.
Is there any other comments from board members?
I'd agree with Trustee Aresta. Mr. Mayor, when Mr. Dean made his presentation, you were insistent that the recommendations he was making be open to a public hearing. Suddenly, this evening, you put this resolution. There's been no discussion. There's been no data presented to this board in terms of what other villages and municipalities in our area are doing. I do believe that while the resolution has merit, it needs to be considered as a whole with term limits and with the overall compensation of board members. And it certainly requires further study than putting a resolution on the agenda for this evening and expecting to have it voted on without further discussion.
Are there any other comments from board members?
Yes,
Charlene,
thank
is it-
you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
I
Trustee
would
Brown.
agree with Trustee Aresta and Trustee Stevenson, and I would also like to add, if we can also put together a report in comparison to what's going on in the other municipalities, this way we can fully analyze things, because we don't, in my opinion, have enough information. So that would be an additional request.
Any other comments from board members?
I was just going to ask Charlene if it would be possible to do a comparison. So just to repeat what Trustee Brown said.
Yes,
Because I think that's the
could reach out.
responsible way to do this, not to just stick something on the agenda without any, seems very political to me, but.
Any other comments from board members?
I think it's all been said. Nothing
Okay.
further to add.
All right, what I would say is a few things. First off, as we know, discussion must be done in public. So a work session, which we're having tonight, and having this as a discussion item is exactly the time to discuss this. Now, I will say that this resolution is very clear. What this does is that village elected officials who are to volunteer and to serve the community, which we love, for whatever reason, I think to some resolution that was passed maybe the 1990s, get health care benefits for the rest of our lives if we hit the 5-year mark. And that is not something that we should be taking from the village. It is very simple. All we need to do tonight is to pass a resolution, and that would eliminate us as volunteers taking from the village and taking healthcare benefits from the village. This actually came up during the CSEA negotiations when the union actually called us out, because we had asked them to come and paying a little bit on their health insurance
And they said to us, well, it doesn't really seem fair that you, as the elected officials, when you are retired and no longer working for the village, get these benefits for life. So I think this is a very easy thing for us to do tonight. We have an opportunity to discuss this further, but there is no reason why any elected official, and we are long gone and no longer contributing to the village, should be taking anything from the village, let alone a $40,000 per year healthcare package for the rest of our lives.
That's not how it works, Jesse.
And you have a point.
Well, you're not getting the right information out there, Jesse.
When you hit a
That's
certain
not,
age,
when you, it's a Medicare supplement, so say it the way it is. And if somebody leaves the village at 35 years old, it doesn't kick in until their retirement if they put their, so you're not getting the facts out. This is why this needs further study. You're saying things that aren't correct, just like this was not part of Walter Dean's presentation. This is a slapstick thing you put for your own political reasons. You put this on the agenda tonight. Okay, without discussion. Yes, this warrants public discussion, but the study has to be made. And you're not saying correct things in your little speech here. So that's all I have to say about it. You're doing, it should be done as a package. You stuck this on 7 weeks before an election to put everybody else on I don't know what you're trying to do here with this at this time, without discussion.
a few
And
quick
we do
points.
discuss things privately, okay, as between board members. And this is not this is all of a sudden we see the agenda and this is on here. There's a lot more to this. We have 2 different committees working on this because it should be a package. And doing things the right way instead of paying an attorney to do things 4 times because you don't do it right to begin with.
Thank you for that. And you do make a good point that after a certain point, the cost of the family plan goes from $40,000 to a Medicare supplemental, which still has a significant cost to the village. So while not every year will cost $40,000, some years will cost
right, and
less.
there's other things in between
but still cost
that.
something.
There's other things in between that as well. So you're leaving a lot out.
But the point is very basic here, that that this is a significant cost to the village for elected officials who are volunteers
Okay,
who
we
are
got
leaving
it.
the
You
village.
said that 3 times already. We all get it.
And also, what I would point out is that Trustee Stevenson makes a good point. The chair of the task force did suggest that the terms go from 2 years to 4 years for trustees. And I said 2 points. One point is that there's a good argument for that. 4 years would be good government. It allows the elected officials for more time to complete jobs and see things through. On the other hand, we want to give that option to the voters and the residents who might not want their elected officials to have 4 years. They might want a little more emphasis over that and have a little more control over the people who we are serving. So there's 2 sides to that coin. There's 2 valid arguments for that. But I don't think that us not getting 4-year terms, or the trustees not getting 4-year terms, or term limits for that matter, should be linked to the health care benefits that we get for life. This is an easy thing to do. Perhaps one could argue that you can trade a 4-year term for term limits. Maybe that's an argument. I would argue against that. I would say we also should have term limits. But I think that this is a very easy resolution to pass tonight. I also think we should have term limits. I think term limits are a good practice. This way, one person doesn't remain a mayor or trustee for more than a period of time. Other elected offices have term limits. Others do not, like United States Congress, for example, and people have spoken about term limits there too. But to not do this tonight makes little to no sense for me. I think this would be an extremely popular resolution to adopt. I think it shows the village residents that we are working for them and not for us. And I hope to serve the residents, and when I leave here, I do not want to take 1 dime from the village. We give a lot of our energy and our efforts and our love to the village, and this is just a very easy resolution to get done tonight. And I would hope that our Board of Trustees chooses to adopt it.
Again,
And-
Mr. Mayor, I feel like you have not given this board ample opportunity. We have to see what other villages do. I think we need to take the overall context of this. And while the elimination of the lifetime health benefits may actually be a goal, and I tend to agree with you that it is extends for too long, but it is an overall package of compensation. And I have to disagree with you that being a board member or the mayor is a volunteer position. We want people to want to take these jobs because they feel they are in some way compensated for doing it. You want not just to have people coming into this board who can only afford to do it if they happen to have other assets or they're willing to provide their time for free. Right now, if you take away that benefit and you don't look at the overall compensation of the board members, perhaps you are limiting the pool of applicants who would want to fill this position, and you're eliminating the possibility that some people who might want to serve would not serve. So all of these questions need to be considered, and to have it all just piled together into one meeting and expect to have a vote on the resolution immediately is a disservice. We need to study this and talk about it and consider the entire package. There are many factors involved.
I would argue that there is really nothing to study here. I mean, this is a very simple
Yeah, no,
concept.
Jesse, there's two different committees making a study of this for the overall package. This is slapstick what you're doing here, to put everybody on the spot. Can we move on, please?
I've spoken to this board at length about this.
You
and
haven't spoken to me in a month.
And I've also spoken to this board before everyone was elected, and I said, if you're elected, this is something that we should do, because
That's not what you said to me either, Jesse, so. Okay, can we just move on from here, because I think we've beaten this to death.
All right.
Don't appreciate you putting things on without, you don't communicate with anybody, Jesse. And then, and you do things like that, it's not appreciated.
I will make one final comment
Of
on
course.
this, but I will say that this is our opportunity to discuss
Okay.
things with the public
Yeah, I
at a
know, but
work
we're not
session.
ready. We have two different committees working on this on an overall package, which makes sense, and that's the responsible thing to do.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate the board's comments. We'll continue to move on here.
I'd like to say one thing, please. It doesn't have to be rushed. This is an open discussion. We've made valid reasons as to wanting to have more information, comparisons, and to view them. It's a good request. It's a fair request. It's a transparent request. And I think you're making people feel a bit pressured, and that's not the way to conduct something. And what you're saying a lot is your opinion, and you're entitled to your opinion. And I think you have to let everyone else express their opinion. And I think that we should just close this for now, and thank you for your opinion.
Thank you, Trustee Brown. Appreciate that. So with that said, I will turn this back over to Charlene for the suggested resolution section.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution number 1, resolved that the claims for the warrant dated April 24th, 2023, totaling $647,141.42, warrant A24 General Fund, $138,536.06, warrant H13 Capital Fund, and warrant $5,775, warrant T17 CS Trust Fund are hereby audited and approved. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resolution number 2, resolved that the reading of the minutes for the public sessions of March 21st, 2023 is dispensed, and the minutes are accepted as filed by the village clerk, and the actions taken at the meeting are hereby ratified and approved. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resolution number 3, the Board of Trustees of the Incorporated Village of Southampton hereby approves local law XX 2023, the proposal to amend Chapter 116, specifically Sections 116(9)(a) subsection 3, 116(9)(a) subsection 10A, and 116(9)(a) 11A waterfront law. This is going to be tabled.
Right, motion to table.
Motion to table?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resolution number 4, resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Incorporated Village of Southampton authorize the village clerk to publish a notice of public hearing to be held on Thursday, May 11th at 6 p.m. as a hybrid in-person/Zoom meeting regarding local law XX 2023, the proposal to amend chapters 80, 82, 86, and 110 of the Village Code entitled Regulations Enumerated, Parking Permit, and Vehicles and Traffic. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Discussion, would the village attorney like to just explain a little bit to the public what this is about?
Sure, this is a local law that started with complaints about overnight parking at beach parking lots, with the idea being to prohibit parking in the midnight hours between 2 and 4 a.m. In the course of drafting that, there were other sections of relevant areas of code that really required updating, including a addition of a section to Chapter 80 to regulate parking in another beach parking lot, which was not codified, as well as updating some of the practices for the clerk's office issuance of beach driving permits. And that's why it's modifying 4 chapters of Village Code.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew.
So on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resolution number 5, whereas it has been the practice of the Incorporated Village of Southampton to provide medical and dental insurance benefits to former and/or retired mayors and trustees who attain eligibility pursuant to village policy and NISHIP rules and regulations, and whereas the board finds that the adoption of resolutions approved in the past created a fiscal obligation for the village that is burdensome, excessive, and unnecessary, and administers medical and dental insurance in an inequitable manner, and whereas such medical and dental insurance is not a contractual right, but rather a gratuity that the village bestowed upon the eligible former and/or retired mayors and trustees, and whereas the village possesses discretionary authority in bestowing and/or continuing governmental benefits, now therefore be it hereby resolved that the Board of Trustees revokes and rejects the right, if any, of the current and future departing mayor and trustees to retain free lifetime medical and dental benefits from the village, and it is further resolved that the medical and dental insurance benefits currently being provided by the village to former retired mayors and trustees who have vested right to receive such benefits in retirement at the village's expense for premium costs shall not be affected by this resolution, and it is further resolved that any policy statements, benefit summaries, and/or employee manuals shall be modified in accordance with this resolution, and be it further resolved that the village's healthcare benefits administrator is hereby directed to ensure that any or all notices may be required pursuant to COBRA, NISHIP, or any other applicable rule or regulation necessary in order to effectuate this resolution be timely issued and filed and otherwise implemented. Is there a motion?
I think there's a motion at table, right?
Motion to table?
No, I'm not making that motion. I was asking if there was a motion to table this. I'll make the motion to adopt it. But I believe the discussion was that the board wanted to make the motion to table it. So if anyone would like to make that motion to table, you can feel free to do that.
It's the board's discretion whether the mayor moves to, it doesn't sound like this has the votes to pass, so the mayor can move to adopt it. And another member could move to table. There could be no motion at all.
No motion.
No motion.
Okay, there is no motion on this resolution. I would be happy to make that motion to move forward with this, but obviously, I understood from our discussion that this would like to be tabled. So, Charlene, we can continue to move on here.
Okay, resolution number 6. Whereas the Village of Southampton's West Main Street Bioswale Grant Project was awarded by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation Water Quality Improvement Program. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approves Rosemar for the construction service of the West Main Street Bioswale Project with a cost not to exceed $873,839. That is actually within the grant budget. Do we have a motion?
Motion?
Second?
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah.
So when is this slated to be done? Because certainly we're moving into the summer.
Not until the
We
fall.
can't rip up the west.
It's got,
Main
yeah, it's gonna
Street
be,
parking
it'll
lot.
be, it'll be in the fall.
Okay, okay. I just want to make sure that we
No,
weren't
it's
going to
the
do this
fall.
now.
Thank you.
Okay, so all in
So,
favor? Oh, I'm
one-
sorry.
One other quick discussion point, so just so we can let everyone know what this is we were able to get, thanks to the help of our grant writer and our Public Works Department, our grant writer Jen Messiano's done a fantastic job. I mean, she's been second to none. We received approximately $1.1 million of grant money from the New York State DEC, the Department of Environmental Conservation, as well as some other municipalities. And this grant is to excavate the parking lot behind Village Hall and Rite Aid and Tutto Giorno that everyone doesn't like with all the potholes, to finally fix it. And we're going to be installing essentially catch basins to catch road runoff. And those catch basins will essentially be linked to bioswales, which are natural species of plants which could absorb nitrogen and other chemicals from road runoff. And this project is going to have a substantial impact on the health of Lake Agawam and also our groundwater. And this is just a very, very big win for the village to not only be able to excavate this parking lot and repair it without really using much of the village taxpayer money, do so with money from New York State and other municipalities, but more so beautify the parking lot. And if things even go according to plan, there may be an opportunity to even install some permeable paving in the parking lot, which is extremely environmentally friendly and would be really advantageous to the village and its overall environment. So this is something that I'm extremely proud of and very, very happy we're gonna get done. We were hoping to get this done this spring, but we don't want to put the businesses at risk, and we just want to make sure we can do this after the season's over. So it was a good question from the board about the timing of this, so I just wanted to let everyone know what's going on here. Thank you.
And the grant is still good for a while. It's not going to
Mm-hmm.
expire or something like that. Okay.
Right.
Okay, so, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resolution number 7, the Board of Trustees accepts a donation from the Southampton Garden Club in the amount of $3,500 for the purchase of 2 eastern redbud trees and an accompanying plaque to be planted at Agawam Park. And be it further resolved that the budget is hereby amended to reflect the donation of these trees as follows: an increase to gifts and donations in the amount of $3,500 and an increase in shade tree contractual expenses in the amount of $3,500. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those
Any-
actually, trees have already been installed.
Yeah.
Saw at Agawam Park along Job's Lane there, across from the monument, they're already standing.
And beautiful.
Any opposed? Okay, unanimous. Resolution number 8, resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby accepts from the Southampton Association a donation of bicycle racks and trash cans for installation at village beaches. The board thanks the Southampton Association for this generous gift. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
A discussion. Andrew, I also was able to get from a donor the donation of the bike lanes that are being installed this week. And they're doing it through a donation through the Southampton Association. So I wanted to amend this to add the bike lanes. So it would be bicycle racks, trash cans, and bike lanes. So if we could amend this, then that would all be taken care of at this meeting tonight.
Sure.
So can you?
So we have a
can you
motion to
this?
amend the resolution to include, so the resolution will.
striping of the bike lanes.
Yeah, so the resolution will be as follows: resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby accepts from the Southampton Association a donation of bicycle racks, trash cans, and bicycle lane
Striping.
striping for installation at village beaches and streets.
Yeah.
The board thanks the Southampton Association for this generous gift. So, do we have a motion on the amendment?
Motion to amend?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And on the amended resolution, do we have a motion?
Motion?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resolution number 9, the Board of Trustees, resolve the Board of Trustees retroactively approves Kathy Sweeney, village clerk, to attend the New York State IIMC Regional 1 annual meeting on March 29th to March 31st in Cooperstown, New York. Travel days, March 29th and April 1st. Registration, hotel, and accommodations are estimated at a cost not to exceed $950. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resolution number 10, resolve the Board of Trustees approves John Christensen as a probationary member of the Fire Police Company, number 1, effective April 25th, 2023. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resolution number 11, resolve that the Board of Trustees rescinds the following portion of Resolution number 2022-1105, adopted at the August 11th, 2022 Village Board meeting, appointing Steve Leventhal, Mulaney, Blinkoff LLP, Special Counsel to the Ethics Board as needed. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Discussion. Is there anything that anyone would like to say on this?
So we were trying to follow the village code as written that says that the ethics board is to use the village attorney as their attorney, and also to follow the recommendation of the budget and finance recommendation that just came to us that says, and I'll quote, "To avoid conflicts or the appearance of a conflict, no outside counsel or firm shall represent more than one board or committee." And because the firm of Leventhal also represents the Zoning Board of Appeals, and because of the fact that the village code states that the village attorney should be the attorney for the ethics board, and only if there's a conflict should a secondary counsel provide counsel to that board. We should not be using outside counsel that has an inherent conflict by being counsel to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
I don't know if you have anything to say on that, Andrew. I have a few things to say.
I mean, actually, I'd like to ask Charlene to read the village code that states that the village attorney is to be the attorney to the ethics board. And that is not what this village has been practicing, so the village is actually not following village code.
So chapter 7, dash 23, section E, the Board of Ethics shall have the confidential advice of legal counsel employed by the village Board of Trustees, or if none, the village attorney, and the services of a confidential secretary will be employed by the village.
That's 723E of Village Code.
That's what I was trying to state. And I'm also, again, following the guidance that was just presented to us by the Budget and Finance Committee. I believe Len Zanotti stood at this podium not long ago and again quoted, "To avoid conflicts or the appearance of a conflict, no outside counsel or firm shall represent more than one board or committee." So we cannot have the same firm representing the Zoning Board of Appeals, which is involved in many Article 78s as it is, also representing the Ethics Board. It's quite simple.
I interpret that a little differently because the Board of Trustees, pursuant to 4-412, actually appropriates the funds, so it's possible that the code could be read that way. But regardless of that, a few things just wanted to remark here. First, I wanted to take a moment to thank Steve Leventhal for his service to the village. Steve is considered to be one of the very best ethics attorneys on Long Island. He's represented ethics boards in many municipalities in Nassau and Suffolk County, as well as across New York State. He actually wrote our ethics law, which is Chapter 7 of our code, and he has led our ethics training for the village trustees and the village land use boards for several years in the village of Southampton. So to clarify, this resolution would essentially be terminating or ending the employment of Steve Leventhal within the village. So again, just to speak on Steve's background a little bit, he has a very impressive background. He's the Associate Village Justice for 2 Long Island villages, a hearing officer for the New York State Joint Commission on Public Ethics, an arbitrator for the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority. He's a member of the House of Delegates of the American Bar Association. He is the co-chair of the Ethics and Professional Committee of the Municipal Law Section under the New York State Bar Association. He's a member of the Committee on Standards on Attorney Conduct, so he actually could be the authority to tell you what would be a part of that code of conduct and to what extent there is a conflict of interest or not. Steve is also served by presidential appointment as a member of the New York State Bar Association Task Force on Local Government Ethics. Steve has served as an adjunct professor at Long Island University, where he taught graduate level courses in regulatory agencies, administrative responsibility, and the legal environment in various sectors. Steve has lectured and written extensively on the subjects of government, legal, corporate, and medical ethics. And he's frequently engaged to provide ethics advice, training, continuing professional education programs to municipal officers and employees throughout the state, municipal associations, bar associations, law firms, universities, and he's even served as a consultant to the United States Ethics Office. I mean, quite simply, he's the best in the business. He is the authority on ethics. Now, I will say that my goal as mayor has always been to work together with my fellow board members and also work for our community and do what's best for, I believe, for the village residents, regardless of their political preference. And one thing that I've learned as mayor is sometimes you need to choose to let things go simply for the ability to carry on here. And many times in the past, I have let things go for the sake of getting along and working together and keeping progress going. However, there are other times when it's important to disagree and to have healthy debate on the issues. And I believe this is one of them. After discussing and listing many of Steve's qualifications and telling you what he's done for the village, it's difficult for me to imagine why the board would choose to end this really quite substantial person's employment and consulting and legal tenure with the village. After all, he was not appointed by me or anyone on this board. Steve actually took the job during Mayor Irving's time in office and received unanimous support from the deputy mayor, Rich Jastrzemski, trustees Nancy McGann, Kimberly Allen, and Bill Hattrick. And this is no small part thanks to his excellent qualifications and his statewide renowned reputation. But it's also the way he operates in a bipartisan fashion. And I truly think this was a bipartisan appointment and that Steve was the right person for the job and that there's no reason for him to be let go this evening. Everyone knows that when I was first elected, I did make several changes to the attorneys on staff here, and Steve was not one of them. You may be told that this is happening because another attorney from his firm serves as counsel to the Zoning Board of Appeals, but I cannot agree with this rationale, as it is commonplace in government and in businesses for attorneys and partners from the same firm to serve multiple boards or multiple entities. And in fact, there are strict codes of ethics and professional codes of conduct that these attorneys must abide by for this very issue. So my question tonight is why then would this board choose to fire Steve, the premier ethics attorney authority on Long Island, who has served Southampton Village for approximately 5 years? And worse, why do this right before this election? And with ethics and transparency as a centerpiece to any good government for the people, why do this, and why is it so important to do this right now? These are questions that every resident should be asking themselves, and I cannot speak for the intentions of everyone tonight, but I can say that this is in no way routine or commonplace, and this is certainly worthy of further scrutiny beyond the publicly stated reasoning tonight. Now, I'd like to thank Steve one more time for his valuable years of service to the village. Our residents have been very lucky to have such a qualified and honorable and moral person helping us guide not just the Board of Ethics, but actually guide the entire village in ethics as he's trained the entire board and our land use boards. And I wish the very best to Steve in his future endeavors, and I'm sorry for him to be leaving in this manner, in this way tonight. So, those are my comments.
Jesse, I would just say this is in no way any reflection on Steve Leventhal's capabilities or his service to the village. Again, I'm stating the village code that says that it is to be the village attorney that covers the Board of Ethics, and only in a conflict is there to be another attorney. And then I'm quoting to you for the third time what the again, Budget and Finance Committee said: to avoid conflicts or the appearance of a conflict, no outside counsel or firm shall represent more than one board or committee. I mean, if you would like, we could keep Leventhal, and we could say that we're not going to have Blinkoff handle the ZBA anymore, if you would like to do it that way. I don't think, especially with the Zoning Board of Appeals, when there are several Article 78s with that board, it is wise to have the ethics attorney and the Zoning Board of Appeals attorney working and operating out of the same firm. Now, I don't know what your relationship is with that firm, Jesse, but again, there is some reason why you seem to be very concerned about this trying to correct the code of the village and a recommendation from the committee that looked at the legal fees in this village and what we are paying, and how we can try and streamline the process, and how we can have the village attorney take care of the ethics board as well. I don't understand.
Which is the way it's written in the code.
Which is the way the code is written. So I don't understand why there is such an objection to trying to streamline the attorneys in this village. You know that we have huge charges on the taxpayer for the attorney bills. In fact, Charlene told me today that we are going to have to move more money at the next meeting to the attorney bills, because we are once again up against the maximum that we have transferred already. We cannot keep dipping into the taxpayer dollars for attorney bills. Does that not resonate with you at all?
Bill, I'm happy to address each and every one of those.
I hope you will.
First off, as it comes to attorney bills and fees, the law firm of Leventhal and Blinkoff has a very similar hourly rate as the village attorney. It's a municipal rate. So regardless of whether the village attorney, who actually is likely to be more conflicted out than Steve Leventhal, it's a very similar hourly rate. So it's not going to save any money, because the hourly rate is essentially one and the same. So that argument is actually not valid. The other thing I would say is that I had a good conversation with Wade Beltramo from NICOM, New York Conference of Mayors, about this regarding a recommendation from the Budget and Finance Committee. And while I thank members from the Budget and Finance Committee for being a think tank and giving us recommendations, the Budget and Finance Committee's job is to look at the village finances. It is most certainly not the Budget and Finance Committee's purview to be making recommendations about the Ethics Board. The Ethics Board, given its nature of ethics, should be separate, and the Budget and Finance Committee should not be making those recommendations about the Ethics Board. It's really the job of the Board of Trustees to be making determinations about the Budget and Finance Committee. Also, boards, whether it's the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Planning Board, the Ethics Board, they're all entitled to counsel, and actually they're entitled, in my opinion, to counsel of their choosing. And it was my understanding that at least some members of the Ethics Board didn't even know that this was taking place, and was actually informed by Mr. Leventhal himself. So it should actually be the it should actually be the Ethics Board who should be asking for counsel, not the Board of Trustees telling the Ethics Board which counsel. Again, this was just a conversation I had with Wade Beltramo from the New York Conference of Mayors.
That's not the way it's written in the code, Jesse.
And
So-
also, the way it's written in New York State law, 4-4112, is that the Board of Trustees is responsible for the appropriations of the village. So yes, this Board of Trustees has to determine the amount of money that we'll spend on counsel for the Ethics Board, but
Correct.
it is up to the Ethics Board essentially to determine what counsel they would like to have. Again, I do not think some of those arguments hold water. And then lastly, there is a professional code of conduct and professional standards that all attorneys must abide by. In fact, Mr. Leventhal himself is the expert on this code of conduct. So to even suggest that I have some relationship with this law firm that is outside the purview and outside the scope is just false. And I wholeheartedly disagree with that. And I have a high degree of confidence in both Mr. Leventhal and Mr. Blinkoff, who's the attorney to our ZBA, that they are so far beyond reproach and that their reputation and their work is unimpeachable. And I do not think that that would be the case. And if there was an issue, which I'm not aware of, but if there was an issue with the Zoning Board of Appeals, then Steve would recuse himself and then potentially turn it over to the village attorney. But actually, the village attorney might also have a conflict if there was a situation with the ZBA. So I actually believe that out of all the attorneys here, the village attorney would have the most conflict in this particular situation, given the fact that he is day in and day out serving and working for the village. So likely, the village attorney is probably not the best to serve the ethics board. And we also know from Andrew that he has an enormous amount of work on his plate, and this is probably the last thing he should be taking on.
Mr. Mayor, I suggest that you change the village code then, because the village code says that the village attorney should be the attorney for the ethics board. So do you want to change the village code? Go right at it. But that's not what's happening tonight, okay?
This is not an attack on Mr. Leventhal at all. This is following what is in the code.
You always are holding up the village code as the sacred thing we must live by, but when the village code doesn't agree with what you want to do, oh, well, then we just have to, Mr. Leventhal is fine man, and we have to keep him. I agree he's a fine man. But you've gone through 5 attorneys while you've been mayor. Why is this one special, Mr. Mayor? You fired 5 attorneys. We didn't have an hour-long speech about how great all those were after you fired them. Why is Mr. Leventhal so special when we are trying to follow the village code and the recommendations of the Budget and Finance Committee, who, by the way, also suggested that we get a full-time village attorney, so then it would be less expensive to have the full-time village attorney providing those services as opposed to on an hourly basis. So what you're saying makes no sense at all.
Actually, Trustee Stevenson, I would respectfully disagree with your statement of firing attorneys. That since we've served together for the last 2 years or so, not a single attorney has fit that description.
Brian Egan. Yeah,
He-
let's go through them.
he
Can we
was-
go through them?
There have been 5 attorneys in 4 years, Mayor.
During this
5 attorneys in 4 years. 5 attorneys in 4 years. That's fact. Fact. You can't run away from facts, Jesse. Facts don't lie.
And if anything, when it comes to employees, we've done a good job. As far as disciplinary issues, we've always looked out for the employees here, and if there's any issues,
You have some
particularly-
issues with employees, Jesse. Come on.
There's plenty of issues, Jesse.
Okay.
There's other issues with this also, which I'm not going to get into, but there's other conflicts of interest here that pertain to this discussion.
Thank you very much.
Can
I
we move
appreciate
on,
everyone's
please?
comments tonight, and thank you.
So a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Toast.
4-1. Resolution number 12, the Board of Trustees authorizes the mayor to enter into a license agreement with SMSA Limited Partnership, doing business as Verizon Wireless, related to the installation of wireless service equipment at Village Hall, pending approval of the license agreement by the village administrator and council. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resolution number 13, whereas the village has previously entered into a license agreement with various establishments allowing them to utilize municipal space for outdoor dining, and whereas New York State has adopted legislation to allow establishments to continue to utilize such space with consent and agreement with the municipality, subject to approval from the State Liquor Authority, now therefore be it resolved, the Village of Southampton hereby authorizes and approves the extension of said license from April 1st to 2023 to December 3rd, 2023. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resolution number 14, the Board of Trustees approves the Mariners Patriots Club and neighboring school districts to host a military recognition ceremony to recognize graduating seniors committed to enlisting in the armed services and serving our nation. The ceremony is planned to take place Thursday, May 25th, 2023, at 10 a.m. at Agawam Park in front of the World War I Memorial. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resolution number 15, the Board of Trustees authorizes the Memorial Day ceremony to be held at Agawam Park on Monday, May 29th, 2023, at 11 a.m. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resolution number 16, resolve the Board of Trustees approves the request from Jenna Swezerman, Eastern Long Island surf riders, to host a Cooper's Beach cleanup on July 5th, 2023, from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resolution number 17, the Board of Trustees hereby approves the Heart of the Hamptons to hold their Moonlight Plunge fundraiser at Cooper's Beach on Tuesday, August 1st, 2023, from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. The $250 fee will be waived for this event. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resolution number 18, resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the beach event application for Southampton Bath and Tennis Club, 212 Gin Lane, on Saturday, August 19th, 2023, at 6:30 through 9:30 p.m. for 200 guests. Parking will be pre-coordinated, and an exception to parking letters will be conspicuously displayed on vehicles during the event. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. I do have one supplemental item to add. It is added, it's in your packet here. Do I have a motion to add this personnel resolution to the agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
On the supplemental, we have resolved that the Board of Trustees appoints Brian Droska to the position of Maintenance Mechanic 4 in the Highway Department at a salary of $80,573.69, effective April 25th, 2023. Just as a point of reference, Mr. Droska had filed for reclassification with Civil Service, and they approved that the duties he was performing were more of a Maintenance Mechanic 4, and he is, I believe, he's one of our masons in DPW.
Can I just ask, so what was he previously?
Maintenance Mechanic 3.
Okay.
So do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second?
All in
Quick
favor?
discussion.
Oh.
I just wanted to thank Brian. He has been an outstanding mason. There's been a lot of brickwork being done in the village. People might recognize that the brickwork in front of the History Museum or Argento is looking better than ever before. And Brian just has an outstanding background of masonry, and we're extremely lucky to have him as part of our team. He's been training other masons and other members of the Highway Department, and I think that Brian is outstanding, and he's been a long-time village employee, longtime member of the Highway Department, and he is second to none. And I would just say that, to me, it doesn't matter whether this is reclassification or not. I think that he deserves a promotion, and he's really the best of the best, Brian. So I just wanted to thank him for his service to the village.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. That concludes the resolutions.
So we'll move forward to comments from board members. We'll start with Trustee Aresta.
Thank you. First, thank you, Charlene, for this procedure for the grant application processing. It's been very confusing with a lot of things coming out, and now we have a standard of how to proceed and keep track of the grants, and also the matches that were required, if any, to the grants. It helps with budgeting and moving forward to get these things done. I also wanted to mention, because we didn't mention this before, that this was supported by the Budget and Finance Committee. So I just wanted to mention them because they've worked very hard on these things. We were talking about Brian and the brickwork, and I just wanted to let everybody know that the brickwork will be continuing next week on Main Street. We're moving down Main Street, and certain sections are being done until we can no longer work during the summer months, and then would start again on the fall. And we're also working on sidewalk repairs throughout the village. So they did some things around the Historical Museum, and you'll see them in certain areas where the sidewalk is buckled because of trees or just cracks. So it's become a very dangerous situation around Main Street. Also, I know Bill's probably going to talk about the bike lanes, but
Yep.
you see the, so I'll leave that to you. Okay, the bike lanes. We rolled out the big bellies, and I have to say that they've been very, very well received. the big belly trash cans. There's a certain, people love the foot pedal. You don't have to touch anything. You put your foot on the pedal, it opens up. The containers are closed, so we don't have a problem of squirrels running in there and getting garbage out of the, taking garbage out of the cans. And hopefully we're not gonna see the seagulls down Main Street either. It avoids people from putting their household trash in the cans. They're environmentally friendly. We are carting about 2/3 less of what we normally would cart from the Main Street area, which is a big consideration now, considering we now have to take our garbage to Yaphank. We have to transport our garbage. We can no longer bring it in Southampton. So this is, you know, people are really very happy with the Big Belly rollout. So the bike lanes Friday, Big Day Friday is Arbor Day. So now that we're Tree City USA, we're going to be planting a tree in Agawam Park nearer to the lake on Friday morning at 10:30. So come out, and then after that, the seniors are invited to go to Our Lady of the Hamptons for a senior luncheon. But you do have to call and make a reservation. The 8th graders are sponsoring this. Senior Appreciation Day there. It starts at 11:30, and you can call the school, 283-9140, so you could help with the tree planting and then go over and have lunch. So have a good evening, everyone. Hope to see you Friday.
Thank you, Trustee Resta. Trustee Brown.
Well, that's quite exciting to hear. I want to just chime in with that. I had the pleasure to meet with our seasoned citizen society, and the main goal that we were having is that our village is filled with such a wealth of different activities. But we just wanted to find a way, one of the first goals, to focus everything in one place so that our seniors would be able to find it just quickly. So that's a bit of information that didn't come up at our meeting, and I'm so glad to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we had a wonderful meeting. I want to thank everyone for joining. We met at the library. I want to thank all the committee members, actually for the society members. Thank you so very much, and I'm looking forward. I'm having a great time working with them. And spring is here, summer's upon us, quite excited. Our umbrellas, our chairs are here for Cooper's Beach. We had a tremendous season last year. I think, Charlene, we exceeded 200,000 of our goal.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Cooper's Beach team. We're here to support you by having the new chairs. We're going to have the umbrellas. We're going to do a little addition with tables, making things just lovely, and perhaps a couple of treats that are coming down the road that we'll be talking about. And I want to give a special thank you to DPW. I was at Cooper's Beach, and they were just working just fast and steady, and getting everything ready for the opening for the restaurant. Thank you so very much. I was quite impressed at the speed and how things are just coming together so well. So DPW, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Brown. Trustee Manger.
So I wanted to just update everyone on the comprehensive plan and the addition of the bike lanes. The bike lanes are coming for this summer. I was on the board when we added the bike lanes on Hill Street, and at that time we actually were able to get a grant from the Department of Transportation to pay for those. This time I was able to get a donor to pay for the striping, which was really fantastic. So that did not cost the village taxpayer dollars to get actually the striping done. And you will see those on Hampton Road, Nugent Street, Windmill Lane, and then going up actually to the library on Cooper's Farm. DPW was able to do the little connector. So there's a little bike trail that now connects Cooper's Farm to Veradian Way, so that you can actually get out to Hill Street or go down First Neck to the beaches. And that will all be connected so that people can get to the back of the stores on West Main Street. And we're going to have bike racks located in that location so that people can get their bikes there. As you know, we cannot bike on Main Street and Job's Lane, but they'll be able to bike into the village using Nugent and Windmill and leave their bikes behind the stores and then walk through the alleys to get to the stores and go shopping on Main Street, Job's Lane, or anywhere else in the village for that matter. And I do want everyone to know, though, that we are not eliminating the parking on Hampton Road. I know that was a concern for some. The bike lanes are just going to be there for bikers to be allowed to go through there when the cars are not parked there, but certainly when their cars parked there, they're going to have to swerve around those parked cars. There was not enough room, unfortunately, to get parked cars, a bike lane, and travel lane for vehicles all on Hampton Road. But it should have the effect of slowing down some of the traffic on Hampton Road by narrowing the travel lane. So that should have a side effect that will be helpful on Hampton Road, because it is quite a wide street, especially as you go further east. But I think people should take a look again at the small connector that's been created by DPW between Cooper's Farm and Viridian Way. It's going to be a great little way to sort of have a bike or a jogger be able to cut through from the library to Hill Street there without having to go down Windmill Lane. But anyway, so those are all great new additions that should be completed by this weekend here in the village. And as I mentioned, the striping is all made possible through a donor. So that's a great new thing for the village that is not costing the taxpayer additional dollars. So again, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Trustee Manker. Trustee Stevenson.
Thank you. Earlier this evening, we had, the mayor made a presentation regarding changes to the ongoing health care for village trustees and officers. I'd like to put Mr. Preston on the spot for a second. You developed the resolution 5 that Administrator Kegelbetz read. How many times did you have to revise that before it was put on the agenda?
Once.
Just once? I'm just trying to get a sense of how long that might have taken you to put that together.
I don't believe it was actually very long. It's lifted from it's based largely on the West Hampton Beach resolution from several years ago that I received at a FOIL request from West Hampton Beach.
I'm just concerned that over the last few months, there have been several resolutions that the mayor has proposed that have not been seconded at all, which indicates to me a complete lack of consultation with the board to determine whether or not they would support such resolutions. I am not against the idea that the mayor has proposed in his discussion. I'm against the way that it was presented this evening, a sudden addition to the agenda a few days ago. No data presented, no comparatives with other villages, no indication of how else it's done, no indication that the 2 other boards have been working on this project and getting some input and feedback from the work they have done. We did have a presentation at a previous board meeting by the Planning Commission regarding term limits. At that point, the mayor made a long speech about how this was very good, but we needed to get some more public input. There was no public input on this. The mayor just expected to have a vote this evening. And of course, the board presented in this sort of do it or else fashion, declined to second the mayor's motion at a waste of the attorney's time. As I said, I think this is a subject that needs to be discussed. I'd probably be I do think it's probably not in the best interest of the village to grant lifetime health benefits, but it needs to be considered as a package with compensation, with term limits, and we need to see what other areas are doing and come up with a comprehensive plan that's backed by some data, not just an appeal to let's all be volunteers and work for free, which is what the mayor seems to be saying, as though if we don't agree with that, we're somehow bad people. It's a difficult job being a trustee, especially, it's a difficult job being a trustee. It's a fun job being a trustee. It's a fascinating job being a trustee. I believe it should be easier than it is because I think it should be more consultative. I think it should be we should take public input. We should consider all these factors before we suddenly try to make a decision on the spur of the moment, which seems to be the practice in this boardroom more often than it should be. Again, I believe that the lack of seconds to motions over the last few months are a strong indication of the lack of communication and consultation from the mayor. All it takes is an email to everybody saying, hey, would you support this if I put this on the agenda this week? We could say yes or no. He could say, why don't you? Well, I'd like to see it changed this way or whatever. There's a little bit of give and take. There's some communication. There's not kind of do it or else, and we end up at this conflict where it appears all we are is at odds. I still agree with many of the principles that the mayor endorses, and I'm proud to agree with them. Very proud to agree with the continued greening of the village, working to clean Lake Agawam, getting rid of gas leaf blowers. We've done a lot of really good things. It's just unfortunate that it's so difficult to keep doing good things because the communication doesn't seem to be strong enough. Again, thank you for the opportunity to serve. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Stevenson. First and foremost, I just wanted to let the public know, I want to thank Patrick actually for helping us set this up, but we are doing a citizen preparedness training. So the village will be partnering with the New York State Citizen Preparation Corps to host the citizen preparation training. The course teaches residents how to prepare, respond, and to recover from a disaster. Trainings are led by the New York State National Guard and experts from the Office of Emergency Management and the Office of Fire Prevention and Control. Attendees are given training, and each family who attends will receive a free New York State disaster preparedness kit containing key items to assist in the case of an emergency. The training is going to take place on Saturday, June 10th at 9 a.m. at the Southampton Fire Department, Station 2 headquarters on Hampton Road. And to register, you can go online. This is on the village website, and you could also select the Southampton Fire Department event. So there's a website link which we'll post to the village website. So Patrick, I want to thank you for this, and also thank Chief Manny Escobar and the Southampton Village Fire Department for helping us put this together. You can never be too safe, and Captain Ritter, thank you as well for your help on this one, and we really appreciate it. Also wanted to thank the Department of Public Works for bike lanes. They have done an outstanding job. This is something we've all worked together as a team on for these bike lanes, and it's great to see them go into place. There was a resolution earlier approving Kathy Sweeney to attend the New York State Region 1 annual meeting, and I just wanted to thank Kathy for attending that. And she has done some outstanding work, and she has been a real leader, especially when it comes to training and reaching out to NICOM and the Long Island Clerks Association, and that's exactly what we want to see. And then we also have Karen Von Temple here tonight. Karen is sorry to call you out, but Karen is our deputy clerk, and she is the clerk in the absence of Kathy, and Karen has also done an outstanding job. Every day we get positive feedback from residents and stakeholders coming in and day out with your work and Mimi's work, especially during Beach Pass season. So wanted to recognize Karen as well, and thank you. And then lastly but not least, Arbor Day is coming up. I believe we have some students that are going to help us celebrate. Everyone is invited, and we could also post some more information about our Arbor Day celebration on our village website. And thank you to Steve Phillips and the Parks Department for their help with Arbor Day. So with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing a personnel issue. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Good evening. The time is 8:13 p.m. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn into public session. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much, and have a good night.